Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen, he's witnessing the first shipment of fresh apples from South Africa to Thailand in the last 16 years after South Africa regained market access. The first thing I want to ask, John, Minister, thanks so much for joining us. I've been hearing over the last few days and weeks you've been having a struggling throat. I hope you are resting.
No, all good and up and at 'em again. So no virus formed against me will prosper. Been able to beat it, and there's only two things that a politician fears: losing his seat and losing his voice.
Well, they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Plenty of apples in Ceres. I want to talk about Donald Trump, but first let's talk about South Africa opening up more to markets in the East. If it's not avocados to China, it's apples to Thailand. These are very, very important moves.
Well, obviously, these are very, very important, and it's in line with the department's strategy to deepen and widen existing trade agreements and opportunities for South African agricultural products, but also start exploring new markets for our agricultural goods and services. When we find export markets for South African agricultural products, it helps stimulate job creation here at home. It helps improve the value chain and creates an opportunity for more market for South African farmers. And when they expand their operations, they hire more people. There's ancillary knock-on effects through the packaging industry, through the transport industry. So we're very excited about this, following hot on the heels of the AGOAs from last year. And we're hoping to have some further announcements in the coming weeks and months about other varieties that are open. But certainly the East market is a huge opportunity for South Africa. And it is going to be one of our focal areas over the next few years as we look to expand export of South African agricultural products.
And these new markets, particularly in the East, are important because they could buffer us if, for example, South Africa is not part of a renewed AGOA, which comes up under review this year.
Well, of course, and obviously what you want to do in every instance is to diversify your market so you're never reliant on a single market in order to promote your goods. However, I'm going to be working incredibly hard over the next few weeks and months to make sure that we are not excluded from AGOA. $3.9 billion worth of South African goods to the United States in 2023. That is a significant market share and a significant market access, and it just underscores why it is absolutely essential that we get through this current impasse that we have with the U.S. administration. We get to Washington as quickly as possible. We put the facts on the table. We indicate this is not the same government that's been making these bad decisions and bad policy choices over the last 3 decades, and we're trying to get the economy moving forward and creating jobs in South Africa, and at the same time making sure that South Africa is a good partner on the international front for the values that we hold dear in our constitution.
Minister, are you going to be part of a government delegation that goes to Washington to explain to White House authorities of what they may have believed around what is affecting or apparently affecting, allegedly affecting white South Africans is not particularly the case? Because according to Donald Trump's executive order at the weekend, he believes that particularly white Afrikaans South Africans are being persecuted, they're being killed, and that their land is being taken, which is quite blatantly false.
Well, I've said from the beginning that if we're going to make big decisions, and countries are going to make big decisions about South Africa, it must be based on the fact. Look, we have had, for the last 2 decades, some policy choices and some positioning that has compromised our ability, particularly with our largest trading partners. But that being said, what the basis of the executive order is simply not factual. There are no mass land grabs taking place in South Africa, and the targeting is not in the way it is being portrayed. That's not to say we don't have problems. I think the latest Expropriation Act is problematic, and that's why there is court challenges now to it. But we cannot afford to have a situation where the people that are going to get punished as a result of these things are not the people who've made the decisions over the last 20 years. The people who are going to be punished are your agricultural workers, your farmers, your manufacturers, and your factory workers. Now, you don't fix a country's problems by targeting those people. You fix them by putting in place new policies, new plans to be able to do that. And I think that that's exactly what we're trying to do with the medium-term development plan, is to get South Africa onto a new policy and legislative trajectory where we can actually have growth and jobs. And we're working very hard for that. And I think that's what we will explain. I will obviously, if I'm asked to go, I will go. I represent a huge sector of South Africa that relies on trade agreements like AGOA, our European partnership agreements, our agreements with other big trading partners. And it's important that we maintain good relations with them. And that's why I think the sooner we're able to repair these fences, I think the better it's going to be, both for the United States and South Africa. We're a very good strategic partner on the continent. We're a constitutional democracy on the southern tip of Africa, which is a tough neighborhood if you see what's happening in large parts of the continent. And I think it's in America's interest as well to have not only access to our incredible agricultural goods, but also to have a constitutional democracy that in Africa that is the largest economy.
Minister, I want you to take off the hat of minister and put on the hat of DA leader. And what has been the DA's role in what could be the perceptions around South Africa? Ahead of last year's elections, the DA called for American election observers to observe South African elections, that where there was no real threat of it being stolen or hacked or anything. The DA also stoked the claims that South Africa, through the Lady R, sent weapons to Russia. Does the DA also take responsibility of how we may be viewed by the rest of the world, particularly the United States?
Well, let me make it very clear. We didn't ask for American election observers. We asked for international election observers, and the same requests were sent to the African Union, the same request sent to the European Union, and the same request sent to other constitutional democratic states around the country. There's nothing wrong with calling for international election observers. South Africa itself sends international missions to elections all over the world. I've been part of a number of parliamentary delegations that have gone to observe elections around the world. The view was that given the situation in South Africa and given how tough the election could be, and that the fact that the ANC could lose their majority, which turned out to be accurate, that it would be important to have as many observers as possible so that there could be a transition very quickly to a new government. Now, we've seen that happen. In terms of the Lady R, I think that's precisely the type of a situation. It wasn't a DA decision to allow that ship to dock in Simonstown. It was a government decision. And that's precisely the type of action that I'm talking about that has provoked our allies and our trading partners. And that is the world that we're busy reaping now.
But with no proof that there were South African weapons or South Africa was part of distributing weapons via the Lady R to Russia at the time. There's no proof.
It was very clear that the docking of the Lady R was problematic for some of our trading partners, particularly our largest trading partners in Europe and the USA. The USA provides 71% of all inbound foreign direct investment. What you don't want to do is to be poking a stick in the eye of your largest trading partners.
John Steenhuisen, really appreciate your time, Minister of Agriculture.